So the advice I would give to organizations reading about it and in the news, I would tell them to get up to date on the technologies of it and the ins and outs. Get your the if you're talking corporate level, get your C-level people in on it and get them to buy off on getting educated on it, the pitfalls, and definitely bulk up your IT security piece because it's not going away. And take a good hard look at what your risk factors are and what you can stand to lose, and what you're willing to do to actually mitigate the threats of the ransomware attacks. Prevention is the best route, and education on the subject is a key point, and definitely divert funding to making sure your network is secure at all your entry points, exit points, and patches are up to date. And that's about it. Just mainly the takeaway from that would be a education on the topic and how it affects your company. Okay, so the thing that concerns me most about the ransomware attacks and trends is that they're growing and increasing at an alarming rate through across the globe. Like you read about companies getting hit with a ransomware attack and it crippling the company. Like prime example, the meat company in Brazil that had a ripple effect on the whole food industry, that supply chain, everything. So they are increasing, and it needs to definitely be brought to the forefront more and not taken with just like a grain of salt by your higher ups and everything. They need to focus on prevention. And once again, that ties back into the education of it and learning about it and being aware. That is a very tough one. Should be up to the individual company. They should look at their risk factors, and if they have a risk management framework in place, look at what they stand to lose from it, and like if they pay the ransom, will they get it back? They need to take that into consideration. They also need to take into consideration if they do pay the ransom, there's a chance they won't get their data back. It really boils down to the company and what they're willing to risk for the loss. And as far as an ethical approach, once again, that would be up to the CEO and the C-level staff to decide whether or not to pay the ransom or not pay the ransom, and going right back to weighing their options. How bad did it affect the organization? How much profit loss will we suffer in the time it takes to recover from the ransomware? Did we do backups? Do we have the proper things in place? So as far as ethics wise, I would say if it were some super critical data that couldn't be replicated, then yes, probably go for it and then take that gamble of potentially getting your data back, but with the caveat of the potential of not getting your data back. Okay, so it is a crime, and the reason I feel that criminals aren't being held accountable for it is because they are very hard to trace. Like the majority of the ransomware attacks will be proxied by another country, another corporation, another entity. So they will use your standard stuff of bouncing around, spoofing this IP address, spoofing this MAC, spoofing this, using different proxies. Like, for example, somebody's hacking something, they would use, like, with a country, that this one country would utilize this country as a proxy to pull the operation off, so that way it doesn't, tie back to that country. But then you've got to try to track down those people, which is really hard, and and especially when it comes from another country, then you got to deal with international laws and things like that. And the cyber landscape is huge, and it is, like I said, very hard to track down that person and pinpoint them where they're at. I can't think of too many examples where they've actually found the people that did the ransomware attacks and actually nabbed them. So that is why I think we don't hear about criminals being held accountable for their ransomware attacks. Okay, so my company, if we did get hit with a ransomware attack, we would not pay the ransom, and we would, because of having redundancy in all of our systems and a proper backup scheme, we would definitely not pay the ransom, and we would take that server probably offline, and we could restore quickly through snapshots and backups, and then hopefully operations resume as normal. But our key strategy is making sure our backups are up to date and having the most current up-to-date patches and everything, so that way once we're back up and running, we can make sure everything's secure, and then we can work on blocking those rogue IPs that came in, and then having our cybersecurity team go try to track back down the where it came from and how it entered into our network. So that is how we would conduct our operations if we got hit with a ransomware attack. But we would try to prevent that first, and by being proactive and making sure everything is patched properly, make sure our IDS and IPSs are in place, all of our sensors are in place, and that's about it. In the case of them reverse engineering and dissecting it, I think sometimes it's the companies are so overwhelmed with trying to recover and get back to an operational stage that their IT team or their IA team does not have time to actually look into the encryption and the code of it. And a lot of times it's written at a high encryption level, and so then you got to take the time to examine that, get hash tables, run rainbow tables, or whatever have you, to try to dissect it and learn how they compose the code to enact the ransomware. So I think it's a time-consuming effort, and yeah, that's about it though. I think it's just super time-consuming and complex. So the takeaway I got from it was it's coming to the forefront more than what it used to be. Your whole entire IT team needs to be educated on it. That includes your software guys, your DB guys, your network guys, your sysadmins, your engineers, your DevOps. Your C-level staff definitely need to be up to date on it and educated properly on it. And you need to have a proper backup system in place, a disaster recovery plan, a continuity of operations plan in place, a good risk management framework process, and being prepared if you get hit with a ransomware attack by conducting periodic, maybe quarterly exercises in those scenarios to see how everybody would respond. And those are the major takeaways that I got from the CEH.